Hey, gang, we're live. Welcome to the Ghost of Bacon. I'm your host, Jake Roberts. I have a pretty exciting show for you tonight, I think. Um, and there has been a change of plans, as there usually is. We have to be a little bit flexible. Like I always say, we are completely unscripted here at Ghosts of Bacon. We just kind of do things, um, you know, as it comes out. And that's what tonight's all about. It's about asking all of you to select some images that you suspect were produced by the fraternity of the Rosi Crosse and submit them to us and have us take a look and then have the Facebook group select one for all of us to decrypt here live. And that's what we're up to this evening. And like I said, there's a little bit of a change of lineup here this evening. Um, the people that I have with me tonight, you don't really need an introduction to, but I'm going to do it anyway. Um, so my friend John Edwards was having some connection issues. He's here live in the chat, and I'm sure he's going to be chiming in. And John, I do have my phone plugged in, so if you want to call in and be able to talk to us live, you can do that as well. But joining me as promised is Jayson Mercer, who is here ready to do his Mercerization magic. Thanks, Jayson. I appreciate it.
Hey, guys.
And unfortunately, our friend Will Russell wasn't able to make it either. He's very busy at the farm and didn't want to add to his stress. And, it would make for a late night for him. So he's going to catch up with us next time. But we also have with us this evening none other than Gretchen Cornwall is going to join us. So, Gretchen, thanks for popping in with us. Really happy to have you here this evening. Like I said, this is one of those things that we decided we would do for some fun. And we have had so many great submissions of images, gang. And this is why I'm really excited about the members of the group because they're so knowledgeable. And then they were able to pick things that I think we had all talked about this earlier. We could have picked any one of these and done a whole series of shows, I think, on just any one of these images. So it's so cool to have so many really knowledgeable people coming together and pooling their knowledge and their talent. And so, Gretchen, real quick before we started, what have you been up to? You and I haven't talked in a little bit. So catch us up. I know you have a new book out. I want to hear all about it.
I've been busy this summer, which has been great. I've been filming a documentary with Lucas Antoni, and it's episode 5 of Templars, the series, and that is on Amazon Prime. Episode 5 has been delayed due to some technical problems, but we're hoping it'll be up by August 26th. And this is my, I'm sorry, that's kind of...
Let's watch.
I'm traveling, and the house is I wasn't set up to do this. This happened so quickly. Anyway, that's actually messing up my background there. Let's see if I hold it in front of me. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
It's my new book. It's about quite a few things, latest research. And this is, I had an artist page Melusine for me, and Melusine is the family crest for the Rochefoucauld family as written on the top of Zena Halpern's map. And I was in Chateau de la Rochefoucauld a few years ago, and it was quite an experience. I actually met with Sonia Matosian for 10 minutes, and I was surprised she gave me her time.
That's quite an honor.
It was. I truly was not expecting that, but they treated me very well. I had a tour of the archive, the map room, and the locked library. And that was by, she did not address herself as such, but the upcoming Duchess gave me the tour. They were all very discreet and very, very level and very, very humble. And I wonder to this day how that family has kept hold of that castle for 900 years.
Wow.
Without interruption. They've survived 2 world wars, 3 revolutions, and a mob did break into the castle, the chateau, and burned their library. So everything that's in there is after the revolution, the French Revolution. And
Wow.
A few of the Rochefoucalds were actually pro equality, so liberty, etc.
Mhm.
So it was interesting to see this family over the centuries mind that line in the sand and that narrow tightrope.
Sure.
Uh, and it became a fortified location. Just to the west, downstream, is the Merovingian city of Angoulême, and the Vikings had raided there. And the lord of the castle, Foucauld, decided he was a powerful warlord in the area, and helped repel the Vikings. And it was at that stage that he laid the foundations for Chateau del Rochefoucauld and the county. This surprised me. This is only in the last few years. This family is still so important that they changed the name of the county where the chateau is to Rochefoucauld.
Wow.
So they are still very important to France's history and modern history. So it was, but yeah, it's decoding the identity of Melusine. It has been quite something. But
That's amazing.
that's the short of it, and it's been a privilege to have been able to visit these locations.
Wow, Gretchen, that's fantastic. Well, I want to say it's a privilege to have you on the show tonight because I mean, you kind of got thrown into this last minute.
Literally.
Within a couple of minutes ago, John was like, "Hey, I can't connect." Gretchen said she might be interested. I said, "Do you want me to call her?" I said, "Yeah, sure. If she wants to jump in, by all means."
Sure,
Um,
sure.
it's funny because we have Facebook user Tom Grady says this. How did I not know about you guys? This is awesome, and you have my favorite author as a guest. Score.
Awesome.
Thank you. We
I'm
appreciate
assuming he's talking about you, not me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that you're a
No,
favorite author as well.
without a doubt, it's you. You're all of our favorite authors for sure.
Oh, thank
And so, I'm looking at. Linda, you didn't miss anything, even though your dog had to go out. We haven't really started. You can go back and watch Gretchen's amazing findings in her experience in France. And you've been studying the Rochefoucauld family and the Knights Templar for so long. That must have been just an amazing experience for you. So I'm very, very jealous. That's just so cool.
It's very beautiful. It's such a beautiful chateau, and the wide range of antiques. It's huge. It's just stunning. The village is small but very charming. It's a wonderful place to visit. I've actually been thinking about leading a tour there. There are so many people who probably would want to go, could go, and I'd be happy to take people to the castle. That would be an exciting thing to do. So I'm toying with that idea for next spring.
Oh wow!
So
Yeah, well, you do so much. There's so many things that so many hats you wear, and along with the depth and breadth of your research. I mean,
well,
I can't imagine having.
you have to wear all the hats. Editing, filming, researching, writing, formatting, marketing, speaking, traveling, etc., etc. It just
Wow.
doesn't end. But it's so. I don't want to do anything else.
Well, that's good, living the dream for sure. Well, you know what, gang? Let me throw up the image here that you all chose this evening. And just add that to the stream here and pop us off to the sides. I'm just sharing the Facebook page itself. And if there's any particular part of it anyone wants me to zoom in on, just either tell me, you can say it in the chat. But here it is. Gustav, this is cryptomancies and cryptography. And also it's the treatise on steganography. For those of you who don't know, steganography, of course, is the art and science of secret writing. The idea is to have a surface text that has just a regular image, just like this cover that we're going to be analyzing here. But underneath it, with using, for lack of a better term, steganographic principles. And Jayson, maybe you can speak to this in terms of geometry. There's certain forms of sacred geometry that when we draw lines across these types of images, messages are revealed. And this is kind of what we do here as cryptographers. So those of you who want to play along here at home, I suggest if you go to Ghosts of Bacon group, it's the latest post. It's pinned there at the top. You'll be able to find it right there. And let's see. And while we do this, I'm going to throw up some of the images. Thanks, Tom. Tom Burns, very refreshing to see independent researchers getting along on the same podcast. Oh, Tom, I know of what you speak. Well, that's just it. It's like, especially when we have, this particular group of people, well, we're all just fans of each other, I think. I know I'm a fan of these guys for sure, which is why I definitely want them on. There you go, Gretchen. John says you're an amazing Wonder Woman.
Where are you at, John?
All right, Jake or John wants me. He says, Jake, zoom into the bottom middle. Is that not D in Bacon? Let's take a look. I don't know a lot about this image, but I have seen other analyses of it in the past. I do remember this specific part of the image, and that was one of the premises, John, was that this character here was supposed to be John Dee, and he was supposed to be crowning Francis Bacon as his, intellectual heir apparent, I guess you would say.
Yes, I know that John Edwards has a great deal to say about this. What I find interesting is the rope around Francis Bacon, if that's who it is, around his belt, the rope, and you've got the John Dee character holding on to it, which is interesting. It did remind me a bit of later Freemasonic rites with the rope around the neck.
The rope around the neck, yeah, it's very reminiscent of that as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and like I said, that would make sense of Dee kind of inducting him into their own little private group of intellectuals here.
Yes.
And
I have not had a lot of time to review these images. I have seen them, but I agree they are so cryptic, to use a cliche.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is when we look at and Jayson, I can kind of see that it's so nice whenever Jayson and I do the show together. I can always see the wheels turning, so I know when he's working on something. So I'm not going to interrupt him.
Yes.
But yeah, I already know he's there. I already know he's doing something.
I was looking at the geometry of this corner to corner of this small arc box down here. It really is containing a lot. So it is an arc of sorts in itself. But from corner to corner, it is at 28 degrees, which is arc in simple cipher ARK.
Nice.
That's very, very cool.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it was 28. And this is just kind of like how we do this and just kind of unpack stuff. If we
could this be a reference to the rectangular, if you hold this true for a theory, a rectangular chamber on Oak Island as a treasure vault? It's been described as a rectangular chamber.
My research has said
that would be an arc too.
Exactly.
Because for our viewers who aren't really familiar with what we're discussing here, the word arc itself means to protect and keep hidden. And so the idea of an arc being on Oak Island, this is my take on it. I'm not a literalist, as everyone knows, but other people are, and that's great. But I think that the idea that something is being hidden and protected there My research says specifically that there is a rectangular chamber for sure. But and as usual, our friend Dan Spino, did he obtain a copy of this book when he was in Europe and brought it back to England?
I think they were printed in London.
Yeah.
They were printed in London.
Yep.
And one thing to consider, that all of this stuff that we really look at that's of a big find, whether it's sonnets or the first folio or the 1611 Bible, and this now coming a year after sonnets is printed, this was printed in 1624. All of this is under the protection of his half brother, King James, his reign. So it's like a green light for them to produce these things, which might cause a stir in another country or might cause a stir at home because of the content. And he's doing this with his brother.
Yep. And again, that's one of the things from my work that a lot of people, when you hear us talk about this on the podcast and you haven't actually seen our work or you haven't read my book and seen all of the evidence that I've laid out regarding Francis Bacon's true heritage, I get it. It sounds crazy. And people are very skeptical, but once you actually dig into the evidence for it, and Jayson with your work and Will and John both have also, coming from completely different angles, have, forgive the pun, have basically found the same exact references and the same exact information coming out, that Francis Bacon was the son of Mary Queen of Scots and Francis II, as impossible as that may seem in Orthodox history.
Yesterday was a very important day.
Yes, it was.
Yesterday was August 19th. That was the day that Mary Queen of Scots had secretly returned to her homeland in Scotland. So she came amongst a group of ships. They were delivering French wine. Could have been part of a disguise, but there were multiple ships. There's more on that arrival, but that was an important day. Now, what is also significant to what you're saying and what we find is that she appeared back in Scotland 9 months after her husband's death and 8 months after the child would have been born. So that would have given her time to conceal herself and after having a child and return not looking like she just had a child.
Correct. Yeah.
Fascinating.
And the funny thing is, and as we continue to look at this timeline, and in my next book, I have another timeline basically delineating yet another alias and another person, and showing how when we look at Orthodox history, it actually does fit with a lot of this craziness that we're talking about. So yeah, I mean, it's really pretty interesting. What I do is this is what I did with Fama Fraternitatis, the frontispiece of that. I like to look at something like this here. If we're looking at this image, I just moved it. And the very first part says cryptome, right? And it's hyphenated. And they chose this size font or typeface. And yet, knowing that it would not fit here, and then they would have to hyphenate the word at odd places. And so to me, what this is usually an indication of you need to check out the value of this line right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And Jayson, I don't know if you've already started doing this, but one of the things that I do, we see this arrow being shot at what looks like a phoenix carrying a book, and this spear, and this here. I always study the angles of these. But I'm sure that you're probably already looking at.
Remind me, I've got something on the spear later.
Okay, good.
It's on the tip of the spear, yeah.
Yep. And so, just looking at your draftsman's techniques of how you split the image and go from corner to corner to find the center and so on. I look. The first thing I do is I just start looking at letters and their values. So.
I did look at briefly as we were introducing ourselves. The arrow, there are two spears, and they seem to be pointing to specific letters, and that was just a very quick rundown that I did. And one might have even dissected two letters, but not having spent much time with it, I certainly wouldn't be able to give you much more than that. You probably are well down the racetrack already, but to me, it looks like it's indicating the letters N in the third line down. Ditto with the man holding the spear facing to the left, and ditto with the other spear. But there's got to be something going on with that. Angles are so important in architecture, statuary, paintings. There has to be something going on with this. But again, that's all I've had time for. And you two gentlemen are incredibly skilled at what you do.
Well, thank you, Gretchen. And you have a great eye, because it's one of the first things I noted. And yeah, you're right. They are definite indications. Whenever you see an arrow or a spear pointing, there's usually something significant there. The values of this line of cryptome, the simple cipher value, simple cipher, of course, ascribes the letters A through Z, the numbers 1 through 24, because we're talking about the Elizabethan alphabet here. And if you assign each of these letters those values, when you add them up, you have a total of 108. 108.
Nice.
Jason already knows.
Francois.
Many of you are watching already know is Francis in reverse cipher. It's a known Francis Bacon signature. The reverse cipher value of cryptome is 92, which is the reverse cipher value of the name Bacon. The K cipher has me puzzled, Jason. I don't know if you, and this either is a miss or it's an unknown value that I'm not familiar with. Yeah. Oh, Lon's already got it too. Lon, you're doing this in real time with us. And he says cryptome is Francis Bacon in reverse cipher. Yeah, absolutely, my friend. So hi, Jeff. Glad you could make it, my friend. Jeff Freeman in the house, gang. Our good friend from Oak Island and beyond. But the K cipher value has me puzzled, Jason. It's 160.
Yeah, I might have something for 160.
Because and gang, one of the things that people always talk about when it comes to Francis Bacon ciphers is this idea of saturation. And well, if you come up with enough things, then any number is significant. Well, in answer to that, one of the things that I always say is that the Sir Francis Walsingham, the cryptologist in London with Queen Elizabeth, her expert, had over 500 numbers, 500 values that had meaning. Okay. And he had a code book. I think that what Jason and Will and I and John and others have started doing is, I think we are decrypting and discovering and recovering Francis Bacon's code book. And so it's not a matter of, oh, this means something. It's like, no, what does it mean? And where we're actually reading the ciphers. Gretchen, we lost you there for a second. We got you back.
I apologize.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah, Jake, for 160 in K cipher, it's brother.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's brother. K cipher.
And you know what? One of the things that I always neglected to do, I didn't use the English version of the name brother because, the purists use frater, Latin for brother. But the other thing I discovered while I was this week, I've been revising my Fraternity of the Rosi Crosse chapter of my next book, which was the Rosi Crosse manifestos were published in Germany. And the word Bruder, Bruder, German for brother, those values are exactly the same as frater. And so that's not a mistake. That's in simple reverse and case ciphers and short.
And Gretchen was just talking about the spear and how it goes through the N and the C.
Yeah.
So I just checked it. It precisely goes through the top of the N, through the C, and through the G. So the 3 letters combined on this seems to be case cipher message system here that Bacon created, total 75. So we've got 2 names there holding the spear. We've got 75 is the total for Stuart, and he's a Stuart, and the Stuarts are holding the spear. And we've got 75 in reverse cipher for FR the third.
Or the third, yeah.
So that is very awesome.
That's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
That is so cool. Wow. Oh, geez. And Lon, I should send you the link to pop in here as well. 160 is also tau, 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 tau. Oh, I see what you're saying. 150 is 4 times tau. 160 is
now goodness. The Italians believe that Matilde de Canossa, or Matilda of Tuscany, was actually a major contributor and benefactor prior to the Templars gaining their headquarters in France. So in Tuscany, she gave them land, and the Italians are very proud of the fact that and they believe that that Hugh de Payens was in northern Italy and Tuscany, and their prior incarnation was the Tau Knights, or the Tau Knights. Literally their symbol is that T.
The Tau, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting synchronicity.
But yeah, well, that's one of the things that we do is, it's like something in and of itself is not necessarily significant until you start to see correlations and repetition.
Right.
When like you said, the synchronicity of these things all of a sudden just coinciding, that so much so that it stops being a coincidence. Z, our friend Z160 is Frater, FR the third in reverse, and FR Bacon and K. Oh, wow. Good eye, Z. You're really good.
Yeah, and that spear that's in the front, pointed upwards, Gretchen was talking about, it's at 72 degrees. So that's one that we're very familiar with, King Bacon.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of, John and I were talking earlier. Let me go ahead and move this. If we really look at this hat, it looks like a fur crown. Now, people back then, there were people in the know who knew that Bacon was king. He was referred to as King Bacon and Rex Bacon. He was even the regent of England for a month when his younger brother, King James, went to Denmark. James allowed him to wear purple on his birthday. All right. That was something that was reserved for royalty. Now, the idea that this could be a fur crown, which this was John's idea, I find very interesting because, many of you know from reading my first book, The Holy Trinity Decryption, Bacon claims that his best alias was Samuel de Champlain, which, on its face sounds like crazy talk. However, when you look at all of the evidence, particularly in Champlain's books, it's all there in cipher messages that are very, very explicit and very clear. In fact, one of the messages states explicitly that the French king sent Bacon to Tadoussac to oversee the fur trade. And so the idea of the fur trade being so incredibly important back then, in particular, the idea of a beaver hat, which Bacon was known to wear quite a lot. I don't know, John, you might be onto something there.
There's it's in shadow, but if you pull in really close on that fur hat, there does appear to be a badge, but it's on the what would be the front. it's possible there might be an intention there of greater wealth authority, but it's hidden in a shadow. They
Yeah.
would often, at that time period, they would often wear a jewel here. They would decorate those hats, and they are shaped in the form of a crown. I think that's accurate. I know a lot about costuming and time period clothing, and this would have been a very noble, aristocratic hat/crown.
For sure. And I love that you noted and recognized that it's in shadow, which represents his secret title as king.
Yes, I think so.
That's the symbolism of it for sure. Jan asking a great question. Is he holding a pipe or a hook? I don't know if it looks very solid as opposed to Gretchen, you and I were originally thinking it was like a piece of cloth or something.
I think it's a rope, and to me, I mean, you can see it could be it could be an expensive cord as well. It looks like it could be expensive cording, but it is looped around Francis Bacon's own sash. Right. And it looks like it could be even some kind of like I don't know what kind of a knot that could be, but you see it looping up, and it either looks like the world's longest pipe or but there's some kind of a looping around his belt, and it's so you've got it curling up, and then you've got
it could very well be a very symbolic knot there.
Yeah, it looks like a knot, but and he's just simply holding it at his hip, but it doesn't appear to be tied to his. That would be very difficult. Yeah. He's not wearing it. It's a doublet he's wearing.
Yes. Right.
So he's holding it, and that perhaps could be an earlier tradition for the rope at the neck of a Freemason who's being initiated.
Sure. And listen, gang, we're saying these things then under the assumption that, under the possible premise that this figure here could be Francis Bacon being seated and John Dee behind him, crowning him. And so, again, this is at this point speculation. I'm going to definitely, couch this in, this analysis in that idea. But considering the context of the image itself, I think it's a logical inference to make for sure. And again, once we have Z, yeah, you're right, anchoring in a sense. And Daniel is correct. It's definitely denoting the concept of master and apprentice. I agree with you.
Even the expression is interesting. The seated man is looking behind him as if he's apprehensive, as if he's worried, perhaps, and he's paying real sharp attention too.
Yes. And
has his quill poised to write down the imparted knowledge. And yes, the fabric, the man who is standing, the fabric he is wearing is highly embroidered. It's expensive, whereas the seated individual, oddly enough, looks less well dressed, less expensively dressed. So that, which is interesting.
I agree. Very interesting.
And of the wrong period, really. He's wearing what I would call a surcoat, which is an earlier time frame. The surcoat was well gone by this time. So basically, he's wearing a long tunic, a long surcoat.
Yeah, it almost looks like a Franciscan robe.
A monk's robe.
Yes.
Could the standing be Cecil? Very close together. Really, Bacon's a son to him.
True. That's a good thought, Jason. Now, one of the things that I do, I always look at the dates and look at this date. This Roman numeral, we have backward C, and upside down E, which I guess is supposed to be an A, but I'm not sure how that fits in with a date. Pretty interesting. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that.
It is interesting, and I'm sure you're well ahead of me on this, but the letters A and E, when they are needed in the text, are sharing the same upward, vertical base, really, and that's definitely Rosicrucian. That's ether, however you wish to discuss to pronounce that, but it means it's almost the concept is almost like the Force in Star Wars. So it represents, those two letters represents this force field, if you will, that we all exist in and is us, and we can draw on that to heal ourselves. It is the all that is, the force of God, if you will, that the ascended master is able to conduit and shift reality around him, healing, psychical capacities, telekinetic, cryptography, all sorts of things. But
Yeah,
and forgive me, I've not spent a lot of time with you, so if I've gone off on one.
No, you're spot on, because symbolically, it could also be looked at as if it's a reversed 6. Now, 6 is a number of the soul encased within flesh exiting, right? As opposed to the 9, which is the soul descending into flesh. We were talking about esoteric meanings of numbers,
Right.
but this would have the same symbolic meaning as the 6, which is what you just described of the ascended master, of being encased within flesh, but then ascending out of it as a pictogram, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. I just looking at, so everyone, you can kind of play along at home here. C is 3. This is an L, which is 11. A backward C would imply a reverse cipher. So we're going to use the value of 22. And let me do this again just to make sure. 3 plus 11 plus 22 plus we have another and then we add the reverse. That would be an I believe, a rather large I, but an I. So we add a 9 for that. And if this is an upside down E, again, it's a reversal. The reverse cipher value of E is 20. If we add that, we have 65, which is frater, or brother, Latin for brother, in simple cipher. And if we continue, I'm going to see what else we have here. Okay. Yeah, so that the remaining letters total 83, which is fraters, plural, brothers. So that's pretty interesting. And that's the simple cipher value. Just going back to the you're right, Daniel. All of these knowledge was absorbed and perfected by Francis. Great question, Tom. We'll have to go take a look at that. And yeah, Linda, it definitely looked like a 3 to me. There would have to be another one very close by to represent the idea of 33 with Bacon. I haven't looked at that closely. Good eye. And 65, Elizabeth cipher. You're right, Lon. It's also the Mars Agrippa magic square. That's the 5x5 magic square, representing the planet Mars and the god Mars. Great job, Z.
Do you think that the oval jewel below the date might have something to do with this? It has 11 balls. The Medici shield is similar. The balls on there, the Medici shield, but there are only 6 on the Medici, excuse me, shield, but there are 11 here.
Yeah.
Just wondering,
Well, there's also that reference to the twice 11 brethren, the twice 11 brethren. That could be something there as well, Gretchen. Good eye.
Look at the date above it. There's I.
11, or
11, twice 11 brethren. Yeah. And we haven't even gotten into the verbiage here or any kind of alignments here in the letters.
Go to the top of the script. Yeah, that's good. So I added up the 3 top lines, and there's a total of 33 letters. So I kept counting, and at the 5th line is a total of 50, ends at 50, which is familiar with FR, the third cipher. The 55th letter is an I.
I, Francis Bacon in short cipher.
Yes. And the 67th letter is also an I, 67 being Francis cipher. The end of the 9th line is 100. And that's Francis Bacon, 100, simple cipher. So you had mentioned the separations of the words, the apostrophes, the different sizes, and the centering, the spacing, all of that would help them achieve those numbers.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Let's see. So looking at the hyphen here.
There's something interesting about Augustus and his birth date. His birth date is April the 10th. Well, Bacon dies on April the 9th. So April the 10th is the 100th day of the year.
Well,
I'm just reading it.
Okay, let me do let me do the alias formula here real quick if I can. What I'm really I just started to you got me thinking, Jason, because I started to do the calculation of the value of this line here because of the hyphen. I got as far as cry, which is 43.
Well, look at the large ME right above it.
Yeah, these last 5 letters are 67 in simple cipher, which is Francis in simple cipher. But I didn't.
And that's interesting because the Y is 33, the 33rd letter. While you're looking, when I did corner to corner on the overall geometry, it put a line at 90 degrees down the center, and you can see that P in the center above the O and the G. It's the only letter in there that's swooshed to the side, and the tail comes into the center.
Mm-hmm.
It literally makes the Chi-Rho symbol, just like it did on sonnets.
Yeah.
And just like it did on the cover of the first folio. There's a Chi-Rho symbol on both of those.
Great catch, Jason.
So now all 3 of these, and this one came out third. So all 3 of those have a P on center to complete, when you're seeing the geometry of it, complete the Chi-Rho symbol.
That's just great job. That's so cool. So to answer your question, Gretchen, John commented that you could count the center jewel and that would actually be 12. And then Z chimed in, 12 is the value of B. It's also the number of labors of Hercules, and the labors of Hercules, gang, figure in particular into the the alias formula that I'm calculating right now. Good job, Z. Good thoughts. I'm almost done.
Yeah, I see John Edwards is with us.
So, all right, those of you who are regular viewers of the show, the value of the name Augustus and Gustavus in simple, reverse, and case ciphers, both names have the exact same values because they're the same letters. In simple cipher, the value is 123. What do you think of that, Jason? Reverse cipher is 77, which is Rex Bacon. 123 is Rex Bacon in reverse cipher. And the last value of K cipher is 175, which is Francis III. Looking at Gustavus Salinius, the values in for the alias formula. Here's how it works, gang. And I know it sounds complicated. It seems, but for people of their time, this would be something actually fairly simple for them to do. It's a mental process, not so much for us here as moderns. But Gustavus Salinius, what first thing you do is you calculate the value of that name in fourfold cipher. I just did that. The value is 262 in fourfold cipher. Next, what you do, you have to look at the name and try to identify what figure in Greek mythology or god in Greek mythology is associated with the name. Or the other thing too is, in order to the reason to do that is you have to know what planet of the known solar system of the time, what member of the solar system of the time is associated with what magic square. I know the magic square has a constant. We take that constant and we subtract it from the total, or subtract the total from the constant in fourfold, and look at the difference. Okay, the difference should be a value known as identifying the person that it's actually hiding. If that's as clear as mud, that's about as clear as I can make it right now. So 262, Salinius, of course, is a reference to the moon, Luna, is associated with a 9x9 magic square whose casta is 369. If we subtract 262 from 369, the difference is 107. And that's the value of Sir Walter. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there that this could be an alias for Walter Raleigh, one of the fraternity of the Rosi Crosse. Pretty cool.
It looks like there are three men in the left-hand panel, one carrying the spear, but he looks like he's being given a message. And the panel to the right, he's riding away, and you can see a different city and a mountain above him. It'd be interesting to know where those locations might be. There are three locations: the burning city at the top, and the city behind on the left-hand side, behind where the pedestrian is, the walker, the pilgrim is moving through.
And then the city here on the right.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to try to figure out what locations are those.
Yeah, could be a specific mountain on each side.
Mm-hmm.
It could go back to Greek mythology. It could go back to biblical references.
Yeah, that's a pretty big mountain. The one on the right is could be a metaphor for Mount Olympus. That's possible.
Sure.
However, the whole Rennes-le-Château mystery is all about the landscape and many important paintings being represented, and that match up with the hills, the valleys, the cliffs, etc. So that just caught my eye.
And could these be different positions around the same city? Different?
Yeah, perhaps. These
although
mountains are respectable in both locations.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at the image at the top of the burning cities, and we have a boat with
an
ark fleeing, an ark, if you will, of 5 people fleeing. Reminiscent of, I don't know, maybe the destruction of Atlantis and the 5 teachers or actually it was supposed to be 7 teachers and there's only 5 people in the boat. So I guess that doesn't translate.
Gretchen, you mentioned the clothing before. The guy on the left there handing off the note to the guy holding the spear, is his clothing matching the guy down in the ark below?
It is. However, there's a slight variation in the pattern. It could be the same person, but there is a variation in the pattern. I was just looking at that. The cut of the clothing is the same, and he is not wearing his hat, of course, inside. He's taken it off, but it's the same cut.
The style of the collars match, and then the style of the collar of the rider on the horse matches that of down at the desk, which could be Bacon.
Oh,
yeah, it's very possible. His trousers are different. The fellow seated is not wearing the same joggers and you can tell because the fabric would have to be very fine, very thin to lay that flat underneath a monk's robe. But the collar is the same. The sleeves are different, but the collar is the same. So he's changed clothes. He's wearing the chevalier's. He's a mounted messenger, mounted knight at that point. There's no sword showing, however. The horse is a trained war horse.
Yeah.
He's a heavy horse, and that would have been what you would have wanted at that time. So he's in a full, well-trained, war stance. From there, he could kick out at a person in front of him. That's what rearing up was all about, was so that you could use the horse's body to protect yourself, but also lash out at somebody in battle in front of you. So though he's missing a sword, he's missing a weapon, he's on a war horse.
Mm-hmm. And he's also sounding a horn.
Yes, spreading the message. He was given a message to
deliver. And over here on the left, I seem to recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, gang, you people in the chat, you guys are good at keeping me straight here sometimes, but I seem to remember an interpretation of this. Some people have interpreted this as Francis Bacon handing Shakespeare the first folio or the plays. And that has been one interpretation of this as well, that I seem to remember reading now as I'm looking at this. But again,
Jake, can you zoom out a little bit and get the whole column of the horse rider? Yeah. So when you go from the top left of that column above the horse rider, down through his only eye that's present, his right eye, that's at 67 degrees. And when you come up through the bottom of the column on the bottom left, it is at 67 degrees. The two lines meet on the eye right there.
Right there. Yeah, 67 is Francis and simple cipher. Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So it is on center at 67.
And the word I is used as a symbol for Bacon a lot because
well, you had found that EYE totals 33.
33 in simple cipher. So that 67 and 33 identifies him as Francis Bacon. That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Jayson.
On Francis, on the Bacon eye.
Yep. Very cool. Well, you see, and again, gang, this is kind of what we do, and when we bounce ideas off each other, it kind of unpacks very quickly. I still haven't finished that calculation right there. Talk amongst yourselves.
The spear in the background over the man's shoulder, it's so small. You can play with the angle plus or minus 1 degree, but you can get that spear in. It looks like it has a spearhead at the end of it. It may not be, but it's what it looks like from here. You can get it on 33 degrees. But I mean, to be fair, it's so small, you can move it 1 degree plus or minus, but it does fit.
I think it is a spear because he's carrying a walking stick. It looks a little bit bent. I don't know if that is potentially useful to you when you're looking for an angle. As you say, it is small.
Yeah, the walking stick looked like it's curved at the top.
It is.
That would kind of keep me away from really measuring it. It's so tiny.
Yes.
And then it does go through about 5 different letters that could be totaled out. Just like your other spear went through the 3 letters that did total 75.
Right. Okay. So the value of the third line is in simple cipher is 157. That is the simple cipher value of Fra Rosi Crosse. So that right there, is an indication that this was definitely a publication of the Fraternity of the Rosi Crosse. This is a known value used by Bacon scholars, for the last couple hundred years. So that's pretty cool. I wonder what they are in the other ciphers.
I wonder if the dove is, I look at that and think it's a dove. What do you think? But going along with the ark theme, it reminds me of Noah sending out the doves.
Well, it's funny you say that, Jayson, because when I look at this whole left panel, I'm reminded of the image of the Invisible College. Okay, that I used that image for the event on my Facebook page for this show, just because it was kind of representative of the theme, I thought. But all of these images here from the bird carrying the letter to this person walking with a spear and a walking stick, to this person handing off the letter here, and the person on horseback. All of these images actually appear on the Invisible College image if you go back and look at the event page for this podcast. And Gretchen, you mentioned these mountains. These mountains appears on that image with the ark, Noah's Ark, on top of it, with birds flying next to it. Jason.
Well, the one on the right does have a flattened top to it. It doesn't come to a point. I don't know if it's too early to reference Mount Herodom in this discussion.
Not at all. Go ahead.
And it could be a dove. It would be. It looks. It doesn't look to me like a dove, but it could be. It'd sure be nice to know what was written on that message it's delivering as it's about ready to be shot from the sky.
Jake, I think there's one more small note on the table, the desk.
Yes.
Down at the bottom.
Oh, good call.
So they all have bold writing at the top, but you can't make either one of them out.
Right.
No.
Yeah. See here, you can't make it.
No. Right to the
corner. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Pardon me.
You're fine. Keep going.
I was wondering if there's more than one messenger here. You in the foreground, you've got this man who could be Francis Bacon and being handed a mission. And he's riding off on the other side. However, the man above with the spear and the walking stick without the horse, is he a different person? If so, who might he be? And he's going in the opposite direction, but he's less important than the other characters in the foreground and is dressed more simply. He's not, and he's clearly on foot. He's got a backpack. He's simpler dress code.
And again, this is the same character who appears in the Invisible College image, 100%.
Interesting.
Great observation.
A pilgrim.
For sure.
Messenger. Huh.
Almost done, gang.
This is this is truly enjoyable, a privilege. I remember being very young and picking up images like this and thinking there's something wrong with this, but not having the background or reference points to take it apart. So it's quite something to be here now and with all of you having this opportunity together.
Well, thanks for saying that, because Gretchen, I remember having the same experience as a kid. I would look at this stuff and I would say, it has to mean something.
Yes,
because it's so odd looking. Why did they select this particular image? Why did they break the word right there after cry?
I'll be able to explain some more of that.
Yeah. Well, okay, gang. So let me show you. I finished the calculations. This third line, NYTICES et cry. As I said, in simple cipher, it's 157, which is Fra Rosi Crosse in simple cipher. When I did it in reverse cipher, the value was 143. 143 is the value of frater, in other words, brother, in K cipher. I used K cipher to calculate this value, and that total was 287, which again is the value of Fra Rosi Crosse. So this line right here tells us that this was created by a frater of the Fraternity of the Rosi Crosse.
And it ends on 33.
And it ends on character number 33. So I wonder which member that was.
I'm really scratching my head at this point.
Yeah. Oh, wow. This is cool. Very cool.
So the arrow about to shoot the bird, it doesn't show who the antagonist is. It doesn't, they don't show who the dove slayer is.
Yeah, you kill the messenger.
Yeah, it's killing the messenger, but the enemy is invisible. So,
and again, is this the messenger too? I have a sneaking suspicion, Jason, if we were to draw a line, from point to point, and then calculate what these letters are, I'm going to put my neck out there, and I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to say if we were able to do that,
notice when you crossed over that first N, the center bar angle is a little high. It doesn't really go down to the point. If you look at some of the others, it almost stands out.
It does.
And it follows that. And very often I find A's and V's and X's and N's that follow a line to kind of get you looking in that direction.
And A's, 100%. I find the same thing. And so I'm going to stick my neck out, and I'm going to say that the value is going to be of the name Medici or de Medici.
Wonderful.
Because I mean that is who Bacon credited with his downfall. Was Catherine de Medici, his grandmother.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to just kind of throw that out there. So.
Well, there's such a powerful family that they would be present somehow in this seems correct, and maybe that's why you have that shield below that below the date that reminded me so strongly of the Medici coat of arms, but the balls are in the wrong place.
Yeah, they are. Oh, in my first book, anyone who's read it knows that there is an image of the de Medici family crest that was created by Francis Bacon, and it has a transpositional cipher in it, and it basically the Latin text states this is the source of all my glory, and when you do the transposition cipher, it says this house of filth is the message. So it kind of shows you what he thought of them, and it's really, really pretty interesting. I'm looking at
that arrow line goes through the symbol of and. Do you have a value for and?
I do. It's the only cipher system that has a value for and or ampersand is K cipher, and that value is actually 28. No, excuse me, 26.
Daniel brought up a good point. The writer does not have a spear; he's carrying a horn. But if it is the same individual, he's transformed or opted to carry a horn instead of a spear. The clothing is almost identical.
Yeah.
Pretty identical. So I don't know if there's some kind of a transformation meaning behind that.
The collar is very consistent with Bacon and that ruffle.
Yeah.
What are the letters that that line passes through, Jason? Do you know?
NP and ampersand GRMST.
Okay. That can't be right. That can't be right. Hold on.
Wow. At the same time I got it.
I do too.
Wow.
That can't be right. Hold on.
It's right. Have you got 153?
Yeah. Yeah, 150. Yeah.
153.
Yeah. If you have used, yeah. So we're kind of geeking out about this, gang, because 153.
She was always passing messages.
Yeah.
She's well known for ciphers.
Correct.
100%.
It's also oh geez. It's also an important value in K-Cipher that I'm just going to apologize. This is kind of like Will Russell and I were talking online a couple days ago because he wasn't able to make it, but he confided in me that about some of his research that right now that he's working on, he doesn't want to divulge, and I'm you guys all know I'm in the same boat. I don't want to throw stuff out there that I can't support unless I actually have all of my facts in order and have them published, right? I want to be able to demonstrate this is how I got there. I'm not just making these as bare assertions. And so I have another value for 153 that I'm not wanting to necessarily share right now, but it would make sense that this individual is firing an arrow for sure. Wow, that's really cool, Jason. Well, listen, gang, we've been going at it here for about an hour and 15 minutes. So, yep. You got it, Z. You're on. So, what I want to do, let's go ahead and let's wrap this up.
There's a couple of big words in there we could finish on here.
Okay, let's go. Let's do it.
Zoom out to the whole script.
Yeah.
Just to where we have that script and that rectangle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
Will it zoom out?
Yep. Here. How's that? Is that good?
Right there. Yeah. So off of the A of Gustavi and coming down through the P, S, R, and E at 67 degrees, Francis, 67 degrees, are the letters S, P, E, A, R. Spear. There's a lot of spears here, but it gets.
There are. Look, you can see it right there. S.
Yeah.
P.
There's more, and there's one off the tip of the spear that I talked about earlier.
Yep.
So.
Oh, that's cool, Jason.
Yeah. So, starting with the H of Johann, just to the right of the spear, at 33 degrees, the value of bacon goes through the letters S, P, A, and E. The letter P in the Atbash system that Bacon used is a K.
Okay.
So from the tip of the spear through all of those letters is the word shake at 33 degrees. There is Shakespeare at 33 and 67.
Oh, geez. That's really good.
There's a couple more names in there.
Yeah. One that stood out to me, this weird font down here, Enodatio.
Yes.
Simple cipher value is 79. That's the value for Mary in K-Cipher.
Well, there is a Mary in there, but there at the me at the top, you can find.
Mary.
Yeah. Now, right next to it, starting at the letter R, of the large letters in cry, is
Try to marry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Me. Oh, sorry. The letter R under me, under the large ME. At 67 degrees are the letters. It goes through R, A, S, I, F, C, M. And again, using the at-bash system, an M is also an N.
N.
That's Francis on the degree of Francis 67.
That's a great catch. That is so great.
I got one more. So at the Y, the large Y at 75 degrees, which is the value of Stewart, going down through the Y, then below it is the large C, and then an O, an A, and an N spelling bacon. In at-bash, Y is B. So you have Francis Bacon, Shakespeare, in a puzzle in there.
Oh, that's great.
I'll post that on your site.
Oh yeah, for sure. Throw that up on in our group.
Yeah.
Just gonna do Enodadio quickly. Jason, that's a great catch, man. That's great stuff.
Yeah, and this came out just about a year after the first folio did.
Right. Exactly.
And he's sitting down there at the desk, and he's got a large book in front of him. I mean, somebody might think it's a first folio. It's a very large book.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if Will was here too? We would never finish this program.
Sorry, Gretchen. We could go all night.
We can
No,
do
this is great. My mind is just blown away. You know, this is fantastic. The wheels are spinning. As a bit of comedy, I was, you know how kids sit at their desks and constantly write their name. This is another world.
It's isn't it like that though? It really is, because the one message that keeps coming through is, you know, what his true identity is, and that he wrote Shakespeare. That line down at the bottom, the other values.
There's also an FRII next to MARY. So at the end of Cellini is the I, and I can't remember what angle, but if you go through cry and come down to the other I and come down to the F in the middle of the page of Spanenfi, that F is going up to FRII, and then right beside it is MARY.
So it's Francis II and Mary.
Yeah.
That tracks with the line Enodadio. The entire the value for the whole line. Do you see how the letters are spread apart and then they're very close together?
Yes.
Okay, so that indicates a couple of different ways to approach it. Okay, we can do just the first 4 letters and the second 4 letters, or we can do the entire thing. I just did the entire thing for the sake of time. And as I said, in simple cipher, it's 79, which is Mary and K cipher. 121 is Wa Francois, name of his father. And so we have Mary and Francois in that line. And 183 is the value of Francis Stewart, the English spelling in reverse cipher. Or excuse me, K cipher. Or sorry, simple cipher. That's again, it just kind of repeats again and again and again. Fascinating stuff.
I'm so impressed with how the mind behind this, because you've got to know the typesetting, understand the spacing, and the uh, the accident level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I mean, the entire thing is a code, and he had to conceptualize this.
Mastermind.
Absolutely. You know, the one thing that keeps coming up again and again as I do this, is that we're dealing with the greatest mind of the last 500 years. You know, I was showing some of this information to some of the professors at Clarkson University. We're in the same town, and we're kind of going through it. And they looked at me and they said, "Jake, this is impossible. Nobody can do this." And I looked at this and I said, "You're right. We can't do this, but he did it.
Right.
And here's the proof. It's there." And they couldn't refute it. And they said, "Yeah, you're right. Wow." And that's what we as moderns have to, like you said, Gretchen, we have to try to wrap our heads around this. That this was even possible for a human being and some of his friends to get together and be able to do this and plan it out and conceptualize it and see it, and then make it happen. That's the message also of a lot of the cybertext is the concept of the alpha and the omega, the word versus creation, the concept versus making it happen in reality, which is the omega, the endpoint, and then using inductive reasoning to look at the endpoint and see all of the clues kind of sticking out a little bit, and you kind of tug at them until you find and use inductive reasoning to work backwards towards that alpha or the mind of God, which is what they were really advocating back then. It's so cool. So it's fascinating.
It's what I admire about the individuals going back before the typewriter, is that they had to work everything out in their head, whether they were a composer, whether they were an author. Vellum was expensive, paper was expensive. So they had to have so much done in their head already before committing anything to paper. And that today, I think we take that for granted, just how quickly we can delete something, start over again, and there are zero consequences.
And look at what we do as writers, Gretchen. I mean, we save drafts when we revise, we edit.
Yeah.
We can still go back to the original if we want to, but we can have multiple drafts going simultaneously.
Absolutely.
Where we're so spoiled.
Oh, thank goodness, that we can get on with other things. But the discipline and skill, education level that these individuals had always impresses me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, it's like, and Daniel, you're spot on there. In fact, one of the premises, one of the premises that I've been working with and I've been kind of uncovering as this process goes, you're going to find that Bacon and his associates were writing to each other under their aliases to provide legitimacy to those people as real people in history and operating within Germany, within Denmark, and within England and France. And so what they did was they created a paper trail, which we today, as modern historians, we go back and we look for those primary sources, and we don't realize that what we're actually looking at is like a shell company, if you will. These guys as intelligencers and spies, they were creating these personages and operating under those names, usually multiple names, all simultaneously, and sending out these letters and lending legitimacy to the idea that they were real people. Just really kind of
it's incredible.
It's mind-blowing. And yeah, Daniel, they all knew each other.
Yeah. Diaries for their aliases as well.
They did. Z, I'm going to convince you to come on the show at some point because you're such a wealth of information and a great researcher. It's so true. And again, it's where we get, our recorded history. And if we recognize that these were guys who were, well, one of them was not able to attain his own throne, right? He didn't have his birthright. If we recognize that they understood what George Orwell tells us in the book 1984, which is those who control the present, control the past, who controls the past, controls the future. Suddenly we recognize that if they create a past, then they are creating the future. And in my mind, once that kind of started to pop into my head, I mean, sorry, gang, I'm an English teacher. That's how I kind of think in terms of literature and quotes and stuff. But I thought, could they really have been that forward thinking? But then when I see what they have done with these ciphers and I see what they've done with their publications, they really were that forward thinking, and they were playing three-dimensional chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
Yeah, they were forming kingdoms and nations.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, listen. Oh my God, this was so much fun, you guys. And the thing is too, I mean, we have so many great people in our group and people who watch us live and chime in and add their 2 cents and 10 cents and 25 cents and $100 sometimes. It's like I don't even know where to begin. That all of us together, I think, is we continue to pool our ideas and bounce these ideas off each other here. And you take a look at what Jason and I and Gretchen were able to do here within an hour show with an image we just started looking at. And if we gave us, a couple of days, I know that we're going to be able to just pull so much information out of this.
This is for Edwards.
That's for Edwards. Oh, good. John, yeah, this one's for John too.
Here's John.
The Hawks, go Seattle Seahawks.
There you go.
Forgive me for interrupting, but I'm not able to. I didn't hook up into YouTube, and I foodled around in the wrong way and ended up breaking my connection to you. So I'd like to reply to the comments in YouTube, but I'm not logged in yet.
Yeah, and I take time to go through and do that later on, but it's so hard. And Stephanie, next time we're going to pull you in, and you're going to give us the musical aspect of this, because I know you were probably looking at this and saying, "Oh my gosh, I see stuff." So next time. All right. Well, this was one for the books, gang. We've gone an hour and a half. Usually I try to keep it down to an hour, but and Jason, you're cracking up because we could probably go all night with this stuff. The more I look at this image, the more I gotta stop. So I want to, I'm going to throw that up there again for you, John, because you said it again. Listen, gang, this was a lot of fun. We'll have to do this again. And we're going to wrap this up. And I think that it was definitely a success showing in real time that I think we've been able to demonstrate that this was an image created by the fraternity of the Rosi Crosse. Jason, you've demonstrated multiple ways. Bacon's name and Shakespeare was in there. Gretchen, your ability to just look at the image and say, "Oh, look at the clothes they're wearing. Here's what it means." I mean, that's something to just kind of. I'm looking at letters and numbers, and then it's right there, and you were able to just look, guys. This is simple. Just look at it this way. Thank you for that so much. You added so much to the conversation. Thank you. So, your new book. Would you tell everyone how we can find this? I've already gotten mine, but
yeah. Oops, I'm sorry. Yes, I am on Amazon. I am selling signed copies on my website, GretchenCornwall.com. My two other books are out there as well. But if I hold this up any further, my fake background will disappear. So sorry, I'm trying to pretend I live somewhere I'm not because it's just too messy.
We see it. It's good. When you're traveling, it's hard,
The if I can find an image, Chateau de la Rochefoucauld is also famous for having a Leonardo da Vinci designed stairwell. And you've seen this image all over Facebook. And this is at Chateau de la Rochefoucauld. Whoops, that's my photograph of it. I'm sorry. Let's see, that's hard to do like that.
Yeah, that's good.
So that image you're seeing on Facebook all over the place is actually in the chateau and designed by Leonardo da Vinci. So truly some great minds coming together under this household, who claim a history back to a mermaid who can also become a dragon, who is a metaphor for not only esoteric, but also Mary Magdalene. And the church on their grounds, they have their own church, large enough for most villages to accommodate, but that is the Church of Mary Magdalene. And there she is. Looking a little bit pregnant, holding the Grail, holding the cross with the shell of St. James or Venus behind her, whichever you prefer to think of it as. But it's quite the chateau. It's quite the place. And the Curse of Oak Island featured the castle, but they were not able to create a whole hour out of it, which would have been worthy if they had spent an hour on that chateau.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. So cool.
Da Vinci had fled Italy to France with his dear friend Francois I. And
oh my God.
Francois I is the namesake of Francois II, Bacon's father.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Rocheficaulds would have been sitting next to them.
Yeah. And you know, it's all interconnected. There is a line that we can trace back. We look at these family connections, and it's just fascinating. The more we uncover, the more we discover, and we realize that what we're doing really is so much very interconnected, going back centuries. So it's just so cool. Thanks for that, Gretchen. Jayson, as always, phenomenal work. I'm going to go ahead and pull us out and sign off, and put us here in the green room, and then we'll decompress here afterwards and call it an evening, you two. Thanks so much for joining me, you two. It's always a pleasure talking with each of you individually, but having you both on the show tonight at the same time was a real pleasure. It was a real big hoot for me. So thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. And Jake and Jayson, absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
A lot of fun. Okay, guys, be right with you. And so that's it, peeps. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. We're going to call it a night. Still a lot of great comments going on in there. And, sorry, but it's got to end at some point. So, yeah, I agree with you guys. We're going to do this again. This was so much fun. And like I said, we just scratched the surface, the three of us. And the problem is I think that if all five of us were here tonight, this would be going on until midnight. And, well, nobody wants that. So, all right. Thanks again. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I have a great show planned for you. In a couple of weeks, my friend Curtis is going to be coming on and showing you some mind-blowing stuff about, believe it or not, Oak Island. Pretty cool. So thanks for joining me, all of us tonight. This was a lot of fun, and we will do this again. And until next time, be cool to each other, treat each other well, and take care, peeps. Bye. Wow.